Greetings and welcome to Pickled Watermelon Rinds, a guilty pleasure podcast featuring Antie Joan and Ontie, providing our zesty and marginally mature take on current events, pop culture, and trends. Now we invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy. Hello, Auntie Joan.
Hi, Auntie.
How are you this fine day?
Well, I'm doing good. How about you?
Oh, just fine, thanks. How's your week been?
Well, I used that phrase once just because there's snow on the rooftop doesn't mean the fire's out in the furnace.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
I participated in a threesome.
No, do tell.
I took Theo and Ophelia to my bed.
Oh,
Yes, that's Theo and Ophelia, my grandpups. I'm watching them for the week because their family has gone to Galveston on
very
spring
nice.
break. Yes,
Very nice.
they are such good dogs. Really, they are.
Aw. And
Yes,
they're doodles, yes?
yes, and mini doodles, but they're not real tiny. They're good size, but yeah, they're in the room right now.
Yes.
What? Oh no,
Walking
that was
Isis out.
Yes, yes.
So we had Oscar on a previous episode. We just had Isis, which is Auntie Joan's other
Mhm.
cat, the one that is lovey-dovey and sweet and
Mhm,
wonderful
mhm.
and does want Auntie to pet her. Um, and then the doodles are there as well, which they're just very cutie patooties.
So they're so much fun to watch, and now I'm going to have to get my couches uh, professionally cleaned because we did have a little precipitation down here, and they managed to find a little bit of mud and yeah, brought it in with them, and then proceeded to jump on the couch and dig and
Mm.
everything. So they had a good time,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but
Oh,
it's
nice.
yes. So
And for our listener, and by the way, I have stolen that whole thing, that little joke that I say on every episode about our listener. I did steal that from my pal, Jason Bateman. Pal. I wish he was my pal. My dear Jason Bateman, who I adore, who says that quite often on his podcast, Smartless, with the other two silly boys, Will Arnett and Sean Hayes. So before I get all the hate mail, I just want people to know yes, I did borrow that joke from somebody else. But yes, my dog is chomping on a bone behind me. So if you do hear any of that coming through, I apologize, but it's actually easier to keep him still if he's chomping on his bone
he's a
uh,
good boy,
than taking it away. Yes, yes, my dog is very, very sweet. I adore him tremendously.
as do I.
Yes, he's a good
Mhm,
boy.
mhm.
Auntie Joan watches my beast when I go away on vacations or procedures or whatever is needed for me to be away from the house.
And it's a joy to have him.
And it's much appreciated that you enjoy having him.
I don't take him to my bed though. He's not
No,
interested.
no,
He's
he's
faithful.
he's monogamous to a point. If somebody else sleeps in my bed, he's got no problems going on the bed with them.
Well, it's
But
not your bed.
it's not
It's
my
his
bed. It's
bed.
it's his
Yeah.
bed. That
Yeah.
is true. That is true. Anything else you did this past week, Auntie Joan?
Oh, well, just a cardio version last week and that was shocking.
Ha! Well played.
Yes, yes.
All went well.
Yes, it did.
Good.
Results to be determined.
Gotcha. Yeah. I've been kind of just doing stuff around the house. Went and got my hair did yesterday and letting the grays grow on in. Really prevalent around my temples, but the 2 inch of hair growth for the rest of the head is just kind of, peppering on through, which is a nice result. So we'll see how we go. We're early in this process. So
You're accepting your cronehood.
I am. I am. I am. Let's see if it drives me crazy. But for now, I think we're going to go au natural. Now, au natural means different things because I still am getting my hair professionally straightened.
Well,
Um,
that's understandable.
yes, I have multi-textured hair that likes to frizz beyond control.
Mm,
Living out in Colorado has helped tremendously, but
mhm,
there's still a
mhm.
frizz factor even out here. So getting it straightened, I plan on keeping that up for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, unless you wanna go short and,
Mm-mm.
you know
My face
uh,
is too fat for
no, it's not.
having short hair.
No.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
But at
That's
least
all
you
right.
have a neck.
So far. So far. And my taxes, I got the information from my accountant, I think last Friday. I meant to look before I got on the call. I forgot. Um, and they were filed last Friday. And I'm gonna tell you, I have the refund pending in my checking account from the federal government of all places. Very shocking that it's already sitting there waiting to be deposited in less
You've
than a week.
already you've already had your taxes done?
Yes. Yes, I am an early person. I like to, as soon as I get everything I need for my taxes, goes right over to my accountant. And they worked on it pretty quickly because I think
Yeah,
I
they
was
sure did.
probably a pretty early person to get it all the information in. So, but yeah, federal's beating state on the refund.
Oh, they
Directly
no,
deposited.
they did that for me last year.
Oh,
Federal
okay,
came in much sooner, yeah. I
okay.
think I'll try the TurboTax again this
Oh,
year since, I'm not the uh, investment hound that you are. I don't
I
have all kinds of money here and there and everywhere, so it's pretty
oh,
straightforward for me.
I wish that were true. That would be awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, other than that, it's just been really stuff around the house, running errands, and that's about it.
And that's good.
Yes, 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 indeed. I know in the past we've chatted about how we are similar and we're, sisters from another mister. Um, but we do differ in many ways as well. And one of the big ones is you are a night owl. And I am not.
You're a lark.
I'm definitely more of a morning person.
Oh, I would say you're a lark, but you hate birds, so
I
you don't
do, in
want to.
fact,
Yeah,
hate birds.
yeah.
I do. And I do believe that that stems all the way back. I know I keep threatening that we're going to talk about this on the podcast. But I do believe it does track all the way back to when I saw the movie The Birds as a very young child. Why my parents allowed us to watch The Birds, couldn't tell you. But
That
they
could
did.
do it.
But they did. And ever since then, I'll never forget a friend of mine in Connecticut. When we were in high school, she had her license and we were just got some McDonald's and we are sitting in a parking lot and she's tossing French fries out the window. And the amount of seagulls that were flocking to get it was positively disgusting. And I explained to her that I did not appreciate that, and that just made her want to do that even more. So more French fries went out the window, more birds appeared, and I wasn't happy about that. But and that hatred of birds has followed me into adulthood, and I even hate the hummingbirds. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate
Oh
mail
my
for that one,
gosh. Oh
but
my gosh.
they buzz me. It is I don't know. I think they sense that I hate them. I thought maybe it was my previous house that I lived in phenomenon. But nope, I moved to a different county, a few towns over, and every summer I know when the hummingbirds start because I will go out onto my deck and one will literally buzz me, come right up to my face and flap its crazy wings at me. And I'm like, you know what? If I owned a tennis racket, I just
Oh my
might. I just
gosh.
might have to treat him like a, what is that
No.
called? What kind of badminton? Like a badminton birdie.
Oh my
And the
gosh.
size of our ravens out here is just not okay. Just I don't even know what to say. They are ginormous, the size of turkeys. It's ridiculous. They're so gross. I will see them fly by the windows, or even and the hawks and owls and things. Those are cooler birds. Eagles, hawks, owls,
That's because they're
turkeys.
predators.
Yes,
Well, not
because
the
they
turkeys, but
because the owls keep the other birds away. So that makes me happy when I see an owl. But I when they fly by, their wingspan is just so huge. And then I say
mhm.
they're pterodactyl. A pterodactyl just flew by. So,
Oh my gosh.
so there's my story about birds. So I'm sure that will come up periodically throughout future episodes. Now you know the history of
Well,
my hatred to birds.
and I had a hummingbird nest on one of my wind chimes summer before last. Oh, it was wonderful. And I still kept it up there hoping they'll come back. And I don't know about ravens if they're not the same as crows, but they're
No, crows are smaller. They're meaner. Crows are meaner.
but no, crows will gift you. If you put food out, yes, and um they eat it, they will find a sparkly something sparkly like a stone, a sparkly piece of glass or something and bring it back and leave it for you.
When I was in Connecticut last spring, I darted out the front door of my parents' house to save a baby bunny from being taken by a crow and its mother bunny trying to fight off the crows. So don't you tell me that those crows aren't nasty and mean. And the only thing that saved that baby bunny was me being out there. I couldn't leave it and I was trying to get it to safety. And of course, there's curbs in Connecticut
Oh no.
in the neighborhood. And this baby bunny was so small that it couldn't get over the curb. So I had to help shush it
Oh.
up to the driveway of the neighbor's house so it could actually get onto the grass and get closer to its mother. And I couldn't leave. And this process took a long time because the baby bunny was injured because it had been in the crow's mouth. And they had dropped
Holy
it. Oh yeah,
smokes.
this was like a no joke. Like I screamed no, and I flew out the front door and attempted to save it. Now whether it survived or not, I couldn't say. I did the best I could, but those crows are no joke nasty.
Well, that's a cycle of life.
Mm.
But
Mm.
no, it would break my heart to see that too.
Yes, it
I
was
would go
terrible.
after the crow then.
Yes. And look, Isis is in the room now, and she's going to go after the crow.
Yeah.
Get it, Isis.
Oh yeah, she jumped over Ophelia.
Uh, so, what made you a night owl, Auntie Joan?
It's just the way I am.
But you
I
couldn't have
remember
been that way when you were working, not the hours you keep today.
well, no, not the hours I keep today, but I always stayed up late.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in high school,
Mm-hmm.
I used to watch the Steve Allen show, which came on opposite Johnny Carson in the Tonight Show.
Mm-hmm.
I like Steve Allen better.
Yeah, you're wrong.
What?
I love Johnny Carson. I was actually
Did
really
you ever
sad when he
see Steve
passed.
Allen?
No, because I watched Johnny Carson.
Well, see, you don't know. You don't know what you're
We
talking
were a
about
Johnny
yet.
Carson household.
Yeah, he was too pandering. Anyway, so I would stay up, and the way I remember it, I was up by myself watching this. My parents had gone to bed, my brothers had gone to bed, and I was up watching it. And I'd stay up, and that would be over at midnight, and then I'd get up and have to go to school the next day. But I would come home and take a nap,
Mm-hmm.
and then um, start it all over again.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been this way for 60 years at least.
Wow. Yeah,
So,
I was definitely more of a night owl when I was young. I have to say the me becoming such the morning person that I am today really has only been over the past 7 to 10 years. It was work related. I had worked
hmm
for a company that was on the East Coast, and I was required to be on conference calls at 6 o'clock in the morning here, which was 8 o'clock
hmm
in the morning there. So I had to get up early enough to drink my coffee and get presentable because, of course, they were video calls. So, you know, and it just stuck. But I actually prefer being a morning person because I like to get out. Like if I have to run errands or something, I like to get there when the store is first open, when it's not as busy. Because you'd be surprised as to how busy the stores are, even during the work week when people are supposed to be at work. I don't quite understand why there's so many people in the stores.
hmm
I
hmm
mean, I'm there, but they shouldn't be.
Yeah,
Um,
they should be working.
and so, yeah, but I do like that, getting stuff done and out of the way and still having the afternoon to do other things.
I
So,
will I
yeah.
will say there was a period of, I don't know, 4 or 5 years that I lived 45 to 50 minutes from work.
Mm,
I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning
mhm,
and take my shower, do all that stuff, get into work by 7, 7:30,
mhm.
and then come home and at that time though I was going to bed at 10 o'clock at the latest. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you, I felt, 5 o'clock in the morning, that was a wonderful time.
Mhm.
Driving into work, I think, oh man, if I didn't have to go to work, just think of all the things I could do, early in the morning. And it's a nice time of day. But after I got married for
Mhm.
the second time, uh, I liked having time to myself.
Mhm.
And my husband was more, he'd watch the news and he'd go to bed. So I would take a couple hours after that to just have some time to myself and, watch whatever was on at the time.
Mhm.
And it just progressed from there. It got later and later and later. And
Yeah.
so now when you're going to bed, it's dinner time for me.
Yep. And when you're going to bed, I'm waking up in another hour or so
Yeah.
and starting my day.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
I honestly, I would really like to switch my clock, my circadian rhythm, to be more of an early riser, but why fight it now? You
Mhm.
know?
Mhm. Yeah, because I'm usually awake sometime between between 5 and 6:30 in the morning, just depending on how well I slept the night before or what time I actually went to bed the night before. But I'm usually in bed sometime between 8:30 and 9 o'clock at night.
Oh, there's times I'd like to text you, but I'm afraid I'd wake you up.
You can text me. It's rare that I hear the texting.
Oh,
If you
okay.
called,
Yeah,
then I would
yeah.
wake up. But
No,
the
I don't even like
texting,
to, yeah.
it's hit or
I don't
miss.
like,
Sometimes yes,
yeah.
sometimes no.
I don't like to even talk on the phone after 10 o'clock.
Ever. You
I
don't really
prefer
like
not to.
I know.
Oh, I don't like to talk to the phone ever.
Right.
Yeah.
Auntie Joan's
Yeah.
a big phone call screener.
No, I'm not.
Sure you are. It's all right.
So if I answer, you feel honored,
I
huh?
do. I was like, oh, I almost said something yesterday. Like, oh my God, I can't believe you answered.
I figure it must have been important.
And was it?
I
I
don't
don't remember.
remember. Welcome back.
Welcome back. Now we're on to our next segment, a reoccurring segment called What We Are Watching. We've got a few fun things to discuss with y'all today. The first one, Auntie Joan just recently watched a documentary that she wanted to make sure you were all aware of. Go ahead, Auntie Joan.
Well, it was about a 2-hour documentary on PBS called Fly With Me. And it was a look back at the, in quotes, stewardess job through the years. And
Hmm.
the reason I say stewardess is because it is mostly about, the female flight attendants. Of course, for me, at my age, it was reminiscent, brought back a lot of memories. The uniforms that they used to wear, the commercials. Uh, but one thing that was really brought to the forefront was how these young women were forced to retire at the age of 32 to 35, or if they got married.
Because they were already too old between
Yeah,
32 and 45?
yes, yes.
Ah.
And there were frequent weigh ins to make sure they were within the certain poundage
Mhm.
allowed. They had, makeup classes, the whole thing. So it was not quite as glamorous as it could have been, but it sure was glamorous, though, to be able to fly all over the world. And when I was young, then that was something I longed to do. So if you get a chance, watch it. I did a Google on it and it came up, and I was able to open it in on the PBS website. So
Oh.
if you have a couple hours, you can also watch it in
Hmm.
segments, but it was really fairly entertaining.
Yeah, the movie Catch Me If You Can, portions of it were really showing how elite it was for flying back then and how pilots were
Oh yeah,
revered and and the flight attendants were, all same height,
exactly.
same shape basically. And really flocked to their pilots and, things like that. So yeah, and there's actually one of the airlines, if I'm not mistaken, I thought I heard it and maybe I dreamt it, so I apologize if I get this wrong and I don't remember the airline. Um is going to start asking passengers for their weight.
Oh, that's
We've taken a giant step back. I will not be traveling on that airline,
well.
whatever
Now
it
people
is.
have said though that there is a scale that you step on when you get into the plane.
And that's fine if it's not something I don't know and I don't see and nobody else sees, and like the pilot sees that a person, any person, just stepped on that scale at that weight and not me specifically.
Mm.
I don't care. Yeah, because I do remember, being on flights before saying, that the plane is going to be overweight, so we're asking people to check luggage or we're asking people to fly standby on another flight. That's been years since I've done that. Those announcements have happened. That's why I was so taken aback when I heard just recently that an airline is going to start asking people for their weight, which is funny because if I think the way if what they're doing, what you said, Auntie Joan, is what they're actually doing, which is that you're actually are stepping on a scale as you're getting on the plane, so that they are calculating overall weight of the flight. I do find it interesting that that an airline would want to take a passenger's word for it. Because I'll tell you here and now, if everybody asks me my weight, kind of like my driver's license, it's not true.
Well, I have a confession to make, another one today. When I went in from a
Yes.
cardio version, they asked me how
Mm.
much I weigh, and I said
Mm-hmm.
120, and they just,
Mm.
no,
And
they
they wrote it
didn't.
down.
She kind of looked at me like, who
Oh.
the hell are you kidding? And then I gave them the right weight. And then they nodded their head
Yes.
and put that in.
Yes.
But no, I mean, for anesthesia and stuff like that, they got to know. They got to know. Yeah.
They do have to know. They do
But
have to know.
if,
I agree. I'm
yeah,
honest with the doctors, but that's it.
but if it's flying, it doesn't do any
Hmm.
good if you check your luggage rather than carry it on because supposedly they would both go at the same time in the same plane. So,
Yeah, I just remember those announcements
mm,
being made. I
mm,
never understood it either. Why they asked people to check luggage and why there was a difference, whether it was in maybe the cabin had to be a certain weight
mm.
and the cargo area could be more.
I think
I don't
they've,
know. I just
I
remember.
think
It's been
they've
a while though. I mean, we're
they've
talking
asked people
years.
to switch seats in the past, I think, to even out the weight.
That's
Yeah.
going way back.
Well,
Yes. But yes, they used to do that too. Yes.
You remember it?
That's been a long time since.
So
Yeah.
it's not that far back.
Yep. Well, the first time I flew was when I was
Oh,
15. So
did they ask? Did
it's
they
been a lot
ask
of
you to
years.
switch
It's
seats?
been a lot of years since I've been 15.
Oh,
No. No, but I did smoke on the
oh,
plane
you
then.
betcha, you
I don't smoke
betcha.
anymore. But I didn't.
And then they have the
Yeah.
smoking
Hmm.
sections. Like that's going to make a big difference, right?
Well, just like in restaurants, the smoking sections
Uh
that
huh.
used to
Uh
be in
huh.
restaurants, that never did anything. Like the smoke was magically not going to
Yeah.
cross the line.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, good. We'll have to check that one out. And it's
Fly
called
with
Fly
me.
With Me. And you said you watched it on PBS
I watched it
Online.
on the TV, but I did see it
Okay.
online. So.
And then our beloved, my man, my love, John Oliver, returned after his holiday break for Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, which airs on HBO and Max. And it was so
It
good to
was.
see him. I just adore that man. I can't get enough of
Yep.
him. As we talked about before, we did see him live last year for his stand up here in Denver, and it was incredible. And his weekly shows, do not disappoint. I did thoroughly enjoy, him pointing out the conflict of interest of
Oh
gifts
my
for
gosh.
the Supreme Court justices.
Oh,
Specifically Clarence
yes.
Thomas, right?
Yes.
Clarence Thomas, that's his name? Yes. It was just so how how could they possibly get away with these
Mm-hmm.
kinds of
Mm-hmm.
things and still say that they are impartial?
And
It
and to hear the
just
cases, all those cases by the people that gave them, the
yes.
trips and between him and
Yes.
Alito, yeah, it was pretty
Yes.
bad.
It was really bad. I had heard some of that before,
Mm.
but bits and pieces to hear it all in a comprehensive report about, all of the gifts received over the years, was just, and seeing clips of Clarence Thomas trying to be the,
Oh
regular
yeah.
guy that got into
Oh
the
yeah.
Supreme Court, and he's off with
Mm-hmm.
billionaires on their yachts and super
And
vacations and
trips to
whatever
Bohemian
else.
Grove.
That was just very eye
Really?
opening. Very eye opening. Yeah, because like I
Uh-huh.
said, I've heard
Uh-huh.
bits and pieces over the years. I never heard it collectively like that. And I never put it together myself
Yeah.
because you'd hear,
Yeah.
something one year and then years would go by, you hear something else. But to hear, like I said, hear it in a comprehensive report like that, and it was just
Yeah, John does a good
shameful,
job of
positively shameful.
collecting all that info, or his writers do, collecting all that information and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, making you
Mm-hmm.
really pause and think about what's going on. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I do have to say the ending portion where John presented uh, Clarence Thomas with an opportunity to step aside and take $1 million a year directly from John, not HBO, John himself, on a yearly basis until Clarence Thomas passes or John passes, whichever happens first, and also a $2.5 million new motor coach. I don't know. That just struck me as, I know John kept saying, I can't believe this is legal, and nor can I, that's something that they can legally offer. But his lawyers assure him that it is legal. I don't know. It bothered me a lot. I did not appreciate that ending.
I enjoyed it. I don't think that Clarence Thomas is going to have to decide. I think it's, if anything, it's probably going to give him more bargaining power with his buddies that have been supplying him with gifts and things like that all these years. To say, hey, I got this offer. I could leave any time and be happy. Except he wouldn't be happy with just $1 million a year. One thing that
Right.
that got me about
Right.
that whole thing was one of his friends who has been giving him these gifts bought his mother's
Mm-hmm.
house. Now, why didn't
Yes.
Clarence buy it?
Well, and that's another thing. And John only briefly mentioned that. And I thought that was a big story, in my opinion, I mean, he just kind of
Well, it's
dropped it
been
and moved
around for
on,
a
and
while.
kept going with the conversation.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I
see,
know
I
you
don't, I
don't.
don't know
Yeah.
any of that stuff. I don't follow the news in any way or politics in any way. So
Mm,
not my thing. But yeah, so that was the first I had heard of it, and he just kind of like
mhm,
dropped it
mhm,
and kept going, and I was like, "Well, that
mhm,
seems like a
mhm.
big deal to me."
I mean, because, well, as a Supreme Court justice, they're making good money. Now, granted, their expenses would be high
Yes.
if they're living in New York or around there, but uh, still, to him, not,
Well, they live in the DC area,
they
don't they?
must, yeah, the
Aren't they in
DC
DC?
area, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but it's your mother, and the
Yeah.
house. I think I've seen pictures of it. It's not a grandiose palace or anything. It's a small home. Couldn't he have come up with the
Hmm.
money to pay for it? And his wife, she makes good money too. So yes, yes.
Ginny. Yeah.
And he also, this friend, also paid the schooling for one of his nephews.
It was supposedly a
Yeah,
loan, but then
I
was
don't
it
know.
right? Is that the
I
right one?
don't
Am I
know.
thinking of the right one? I thought that was the one that was the loan, and then Clarence Thomas basically just never paid it or didn't pay it back, or I forget what it was, and then the guy forgave the loan. So in essence, you're right. He just paid for his nephew's college. I think that was. I know that that happened in with the Clarence Thomas and his friends. I just can't remember if it was the nephew's
Mm,
tuition or something else.
yeah, I just remember that they
Oh, that might have been the motor
no.
coach.
Well, yeah, I'm sure one of them paid for that, but
I can't
no,
remember,
his one of his
but
nephews, yeah,
yeah.
was his education was paid for by one of his, yeah.
Right. I just meant the loan
Mm,
forgiveness thing. It was
mm.
supposed to be a loan, and then I just like it was either the nephew or it was the motor coach. I don't remember. Yeah,
And
that's just
he does not recuse himself from anything like that
no.
January 6th stuff that Ginny was a part of. He doesn't recuse himself from
Yep.
that. It's just blows my mind.
And is the only dissenting vote. Um, like if the red flags are all there, folks. I don't, and this is why I'm a firm believer in term limits. These folks who just get into these positions and have them in perpetuity. I mean, the Supreme Court is the worst of them all because they're there for
Yeah.
life, or if they've
Yeah,
resigned,
there's no
they're
chance of an
that's
election or
it.
anything to get him
You
out.
know,
Yeah.
right? At least the
Yeah.
senators and the House of Representatives, I mean, they can have as many terms as
Right.
they get voted in, but
Yeah.
there's still a
Yeah.
vote. And but the Supreme Court, that's just everything needs term limits. I don't know why that's limited to just the president of the United States. That really doesn't make a whole lot
Mm.
of sense to me. And I'm not saying what the term limit should be. I mean, maybe it is 15 years. So they,
Mm.
so the House of Representatives, the Senate, and the Supreme Court justices span beyond
Mhm.
one
Mhm.
president who could be there for 8
Right.
years. They have at
Yeah.
least, you know what I mean? I don't know what the right number is, but there needs to be a number.
Yeah.
There needs to be a number. So, very interesting.
And right now we have a lot of young ones in, so they'll be there a while. Yeah.
Mhm. So it's and there's no checks and balances for the Supreme Court. They answer to
Mhm.
no one.
Mhm.
That's another thing that I'm like, I can't believe, like, the Senate and the House of Representatives can't ever do anything about a Supreme Court justice. Bring charges against them.
I think
I
they
just, I don't get it.
somehow they can get them to I think they can impeach him somehow, but I don't know how or what the whole deal is with that. I think there's been
Oh,
a Supreme Court justice that was impeached, or at least I don't know, maybe he quit because he felt he was being forced out.
yeah. Yeah, because there were hearings about
Oh,
Clarence
that was to get him
Thomas.
in.
Oh, her allegations were
That was all
associated
part of the
with
yeah, yeah.
confirmation hearings.
Hmm.
Oh, see, that's how little I follow these kinds of things. I get bits and pieces
Well,
and I get it all wrong. So
I can
sorry,
remember that
listener.
like it was yesterday.
I
Yeah.
remember the hearings. I just assumed that he was already a judge
Mm-mm. Mm.
and that she was bringing a case against him. But no, that
Well, he
wasn't the
might have been
case.
a
Got it.
judge. I don't remember if
Okay.
he was. Yeah. Yeah.
I
No.
mean, Supreme
No.
Court judge.
And
Interesting.
what's I don't know if you'll find this hard to believe, but at the time when I was listening to those hearings,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of was not really fully believing Anita Hill, and I
Mm.
wasn't completely believing him either. It's like I thought,
Mm-hmm.
well, each of one is probably kind of exaggerating, maybe more than they want to let on. But because I knew women in the past who would kind of misinterpret things. And I was always kind of,
Hmm.
I don't know, I had a lot of jobs where I was just the only woman there, so I was kind of used to, men being men, which is a horrible thing to say, but um yeah, it didn't bother me. But that kind of stuff I probably would have sloughed off. As far as like the
Yeah.
talking about porn, I don't know. If I was young, it probably would have bothered me a lot more. But anyway, never mind.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't. I don't remember the hearings in detail with Anita Hill. Um, I think at the time I actually did believe her. I don't know why I can't think of something that she said that made me
Hmm.
feel that way or just I don't know. But I too worked in a male predominant industry and most of the time was the only female in the room. Um, I also grew
Hmm.
up around
Hmm.
boys and, so my
Hmm.
skin is a little
Hmm.
bit thicker as a result. Not saying that's necessarily a good thing because maybe if we as people with thicker skin spoke out a little bit more to curb that that kind of mentality, maybe that would have helped shape people differently. Um, I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I it was rare that I got offended. Um, and even more rare for me to
Hmm.
speak out against it. Just kind of like, well, just move
There were
on.
times when I felt,
So,
as a young woman, um, kind of helpless. Like
mm-hmm.
I felt like the guys could pretty much say and do whatever they wanted, and yeah, and women were always being
Yeah,
judged by their looks and
their looks, their attitudes. I was the bitch on wheels. Um, because of the position I was in, I was just a very strong-willed and aggressive in my approaches. Um, as far as keeping projects on track and programs on track and whereas I don't feel like maybe my male counterparts in the same profession
mm-mm,
were looked
mm-mm,
on
no,
the
no,
same way
yeah,
that I was, which made it very difficult. It made it very difficult, which is likely why I let a lot of comments
mm,
slide and felt like I needed to portray myself as one of the boys to be
yeah,
respected in
yeah,
the position that I was in.
yeah,
So, but like I said, was that right?
well, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
So you've
Maybe it
always
wasn't,
you've
but
always
that's
been
what I did.
pushy and hard nosed, huh?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. Yes. And you've always been
sweet.
sarcastic and yeah, something like that. I like how you always portray me as this
No,
evil
no,
person
it's
and
not
you're just like
evil.
this
No.
wonderful person.
What's evil about being hard nosed and pushy?
Probably the term hard nosed. you know?
It takes all kinds,
All
doesn't it,
right.
to make a world?
It
And it's people like
it
you
sure
that keep us
does.
going. So there you go.
Sure.
Because if it was up to me, we would still be talking about this podcast. This
Talking about what?
podcast. Yeah.
Ah, gotcha.
Still be in the
Gotcha.
planning stages or what ifs.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. All right. Anything else on Last Week Tonight with John Oliver and those crazy, crazy Supreme
Just
Court
that I love him
justices?
and I am glad that he's back.
Yes, me too. I'm already looking
Hmm.
forward to Sunday.
So
All right.
between
Next.
Curb Your
Mhm.
Enthusiasm and Last Week Tonight, we got good hours worth of TV there on Sunday nights.
Mm,
Oh,
yeah. I am watching
you're
Curb Your
not real.
Enthusiasm.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just not a super fan. I barely laugh. I'm given this last season. I already see where it's going. I hope I'm wrong. Because I'm going to be pretty aggravated if it goes the way I think it's going to
Mm.
go. My prediction is it's going to end like Seinfeld and he's going to end up in jail. And if
Oh,
that's it, then it's a rinse and repeat and I'm annoyed. So I hope I'm wrong. I don't know. I feel like that's where it's leaning. Let's talk a little bit about True Detective Night
Night
Country
Country.
on HBO Max. A little segue for a quick second. I apologize. I got to say, I'm watching probably HBO Max the most at this point. They seem to have the newer content and they've got a couple things coming down the pike. Two promos that I saw that look very interesting. I can only remember the name of one of them, though I apologize. And it's The
Oh,
Regime. And it's got Hugh
oh,
Grant.
I don't.
I
Yeah, you
love
can
Hugh
have them.
Grant with a passion. And Kate Winslet, and it's supposedly kind of like a
Mm.
Succession-y kind of thing. I don't know. I hope it's better than Succession because honestly, I know that show did very well, and I did watch it from start to finish, but it was not
Yeah, I
my
didn't
favorite.
watch it, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just, especially the last one, they all just were stumbling, bumbling, talking. Everybody was like, before they said anything. And I'm like, oh my God, they're all doing it. There was one character that did it all the time. And then they all started doing it. And I was just like,
What?
I can't listen to people talk like that. That's literally how they would start. And I'm like, just talk like you did in the first season. Like, why are we in the last season? All of a sudden, you've got to stutter your way into bringing up something, and they couldn't gather their thoughts. They were all every character was doing it, and it was driving me
Mm.
nuts. So I was very happy to see that show go.
Yeah, never got into it.
But the regime, I'm interested. I'm interested to watch that. And like I said, there was a second promo that I cannot remember, and I thought, I'm like, wow, I'm I'm kind of into HBO
Hmm.
Max right now. But anyway, back to True Detective Night Country. Um, Auntie Joan, you want to give us your take on the series is
Yes.
finished. So we'll try not to give away too many spoilers in our commentary here, but the season is finished, so you can watch all the episodes. They're all out there. So hopefully by the time this airs, our podcast airs, you will have already watched it and can enjoy what we have to say about it. Auntie Joan.
Yeah, it was okay.
I agree. I think it was probably a little
Well,
less
the
than
last
okay for me,
episode, I
but
did enjoy the whole series. Uh, the thought of living up there beyond, above the Arctic Circle where they have 24 hours of night for all those months.
mm-hmm,
I mean, can you
mm-hmm.
imagine living like that in all that
No,
darkness? I mean,
no. And the
and
cold.
yeah, and the
Not just
cold.
darkness, but bitter,
Yeah,
bitter colds, blizzards, and
yeah.
just
I mean, I'm not a sun
no.
lover, but having it at nighttime all the time it would drive me nuts.
Now, did you see Alaska Daily? Did you watch that show at all with
Yes.
Hilary Swank? It was
Yes, I
on
like
ABC.
that.
So, did you find any parallels between the two? Because I thought it was interesting that both were trying to solve a mystery around an indigenous young woman. Now, the stories were very different as they progressed. But I feel like there's been so many things about Alaska lately
Well, that's two.
that I'm 2. There's been others, I just can't think of them. Though that one came to mind immediately. But there had been other ones as well, and I'm just like, why is Alaska getting such and they just re-released Northern Exposure on
Really?
Netflix, I think. Yes,
Hmm.
the full series. So it just seems like Alaska's getting a lot of attention now. Maybe rightfully so. I mean, there's not a whole bunch of shows about. Like, I know my father used to watch like a fishing show or hunting show or something that took place in Alaska that
Hmm.
he thoroughly enjoyed. But and of
Mm-hmm.
course I don't remember
Mm-hmm.
the name of that either. But it just seems like Alaska's getting their day in the sun. Ha, pun
Ah,
intended.
I
But
wonder if
yeah, I
it's
think
it's more about the indigenous women and how so many of them have been disappeared.
yes, that's more what Alaska Daily was
And you see a lot of
focused
that,
on.
like in the northern states. Yeah, here
Yes.
inside the United States, some of these indigenous
Oh,
women
really?
going missing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
what do they care?
Okay.
What do we care? They're not white, they're not blonde. You know what I mean?
Nope.
Well, well, when you see a news story about, a missing woman, young woman,
Mhm.
she's usually blonde and very attractive. If you don't fall in that category, it's not so important.
Yeah, I think, that's not always the
Well,
case.
no, not
Let's be
always,
clear.
but
Yes, but I think there have been improvements about those, different types of stories. And, but yes, there's a long way to go. Don't get
was
me
it in
wrong.
Alaska Daily where,
But
or was it that other show that about the serial killer who would kill these women on the roads, like up in North Dakota or someplace?
it was the road. I think you are thinking of Alaska Daily, if I recall correctly.
Was there a
Yeah.
Native American artist there who did a whole thing with red dresses to indicate a woman who had gone missing? Oh,
That I
oh,
don't remember in Alaska Daily,
yeah.
no. Mm-mm. But see, you're thinking of something else, which goes back to my point that
Well, this
Alaska's
was in
kind of
Alaska. This
been
was
a
in
hot
Alaska. This
topic.
was Montana, or um,
Oh, well, Alaska Daily was in
I
Alaska.
know.
Oh, okay.
But the one with the red dresses was like Montana or someplace like that. It would that one was based
Uh,
on a book. That series was based on a series of books. So I just forget the name of it. But that was just another
mm,
case where they were looking at serial killers and indigenous women, and yeah.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Sadly, Alaska Daily did not get renewed for
Really?
another season. I know I looked it up today. No, unfortunately, it's been
Oh
canceled.
my
So that was
gosh,
a
that
one and
was
done.
good.
Too bad because it was a good show. I don't know if it was ratings related. I didn't read the article completely. I don't know if it was ratings related or Hillary didn't want to do it again or somebody else in the show didn't want to do it again. I don't know. Or the director, who knows. But no, unfortunately, that was a one and done. And because I was really looking forward to that coming back, I was like, oh, that should be coming
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
soon. And no, nope, nope. So that made
Yeah.
me a little sad. But you found out, you noticed something very interesting in True Detective Night Country that I think our listener would like to hear about.
Well, perusing the internets, I saw that
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of comparison to this series, this True Detective series, Night Country, and the first with Matthew McConaughey and
Oh,
Woody
Woody
Harrelson.
Harrelson.
Yes. I have trouble remembering his name. Now,
Oh,
granted, the first one was really good.
that was the best. So far, that is the only True Detective that
You didn't
I
like the third
enjoyed.
one, huh? With
I
oh,
didn't see it
oh,
because I didn't like the second one and I
oh,
gave up
oh.
on it. The only reason I watched this fourth one was because
Mhm.
Jodie Foster was in it and you had said that you were faithful and loyal
Mhm.
to the series, and I said, all right, I'll give this one a shot, and they lost
Oh,
me
see, I
again.
liked it. I was uh, a little disappointed in the ending, but I did like the show.
Hmm.
Now, when going back to the True Detective season 1, there was talk about similarities, and there was this connection between one of the characters in Night Country and the first one, first season. Well, it turns out if you watch Night Country, True Detective Night Country, there's a scene where there's an older lady, Ruth, I think her name is, or Lucy. She's in the kitchen and she gets called out by her ex or her deceased husband. And he calls her out and he points her to where these bodies are. Well, that guy turns out to have been the father of the Matthew McConaughey character in the first season. In the first season, there's also a lot of um, images, references to this spiral that appears quite often in the first season, as does it in the second season.
Okay. Okay. And I think that was part of our disappointment with the finale of Night Country, as you had told me about the connection with season 1 and season 4 with the ghost of Matthew McConaughey's character's father in season
Well,
4. So I think we were all kind of rooting for
well,
an
yeah, but the
appearance.
resolution, the resolution of how these bodies got there was what disappointed me the most.
All right. Anything else on True
It
Detective
was
Night
nice to see
Country?
Jodie Foster again.
Agreed.
So we're back
We
and we're
are
going to talk
back.
about
Our
commercials.
Yes, our next topic is commercials we must talk about, formerly known as commercials we despise. We have since modified the title of this segment to be more inclusive of commercials. There may be some that we truly enjoy and just want to get the word out there. There might be some that we're just like, what is this commercial even about? And there might
Mm-hmm.
be ones that we really do despise. So we're kind of keeping this segment a little bit more flexible moving forward. So it has now been renamed to commercials we must talk about.
And in
Uh,
this case, commercials we despise.
so, Auntie Joan, you want to talk about cars
One
for
eight
kids.
seven seven cars for kids. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, I see that and I cannot take it. I have to either get out of the room or switch the channel. Yeah.
Thankfully, that commercial does not come over my streaming
Oh
service
my
that I have
gosh. Are you?
commercials on. No, so I've
Oh,
only seen it at Auntie Joan's house when I've watched TV with her in the past. So I do know it. I just, thankfully, do not get inundated with it on my streaming service.
uh, I'm not being critical of children,
You can be.
but
Feel free.
no, we don't want to do that. But uh, the voices are annoying, and they're trying to do a cheap takeoff on School of Rock, which,
Oh, you think?
yeah,
School of Rock was awesome.
I know it was. That's why this is so awful.
You mean the movie School of Rock?
Yes, the school movie School of Rock.
Okay,
Well, they're
just checking.
kids,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
a
yeah,
rock
yeah.
band.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep.
In a quote, I mean, in the commercial, they're supposed to be like in a rock band. And
Mm-hmm.
oh, it's just horrible. Just horrible.
You'll be happy to know that I found a little article on the YouTube. It was from the New York Post, and I might not have the title 100% correct, but it was the actors from that Cars for Kids commercial share how the annoying jingle changed their lives.
Really?
Yes, and what's funny is it opens with not directly opening, but very soon after the little article starts, the video starts, it's showing John Oliver, who we love, and he says, "Not many things inspire a visceral anger like," and then they play the Cars for Kids commercial. So John talked about it on one of his shows very briefly. It wasn't a topic, but it was just a comparison
Mhm.
to the topic he was talking about. You'll be happy? Question mark to know that they made a punk rock and western version of that same song.
Oh my
But
gosh.
thankfully, they never saw the light of day. But they do show it on this YouTube article.
Oh, I got to see that.
I have the link. I will send it to you. And they said, oh, most of the kids that were playing the instruments didn't actually play the instruments they were holding in the
Well, that
commercial.
was pretty obvious.
But funnily enough, at least 3 of them do play the ukulele. Who the hell plays the ukulele? Let alone children.
I'll tell you who plays the ukulele.
Somebody.
Tracy Chapman. Supposedly, that's how she
Oh.
started learning music and playing the
Okay.
guitar.
So maybe
she
it's
was.
a kid thing to do.
Oh,
I don't know. I found it very interesting that those three of the children actors did not or had that in common. I thought
oh
that
my
was
gosh.
interesting. All the children said that they do get the song stuck in their head. They could still
Oh.
sing it very easily because I think it's been 4, 5, 7 years ago since
Oh,
they first
yeah.
recorded
Yeah,
it,
it's
something
been
like
a while. Uh-huh.
that. But they can all still sing it. But they said the only difference is they don't get sick of it, like we all do.
Well,
Yes,
they're getting
they're getting
their
paid.
residual checks. Yeah.
Exactly. So I thought
Hmm.
that was fun that I found that little
Yeah,
tidbit.
that's good to know stuff. I like a little background.
Yes. So, yes, that commercial is, in fact, very annoying. I have only seen it a handful of times over the span of a few years. So I can only imagine how awful it is to hear it, not necessarily consistently, but often.
Well, like I said, I usually get out of the room
Smart.
or I switch the channel.
Yes. Yes. That seems like a
Muting
good
it
idea.
isn't enough. Muting it
Gotcha.
isn't enough.
Yes. Because you know the words, so you know what they're saying. So if you get out of the room, you can kind of remove yourself completely from the
And you know they're
situation.
not really playing the instruments, and it's
Correct.
very obvious. And
Yes.
it's
And they do dramatize it in the little YouTube thing, them playing their respective instruments and how you can clearly tell that they are not playing those instruments. Nice, nice. And then another one that we wanted to chat about was the commercials. This isn't one specific commercial. It's a collection of commercials for the Humane Society, ASPCA, and so on that use animals in distress to prey on our emotions for donations.
well said.
And I do have to say that the ASPCA, the very first time I ever saw the Sarah McLachlan commercial,
Oh,
many moons ago, many years ago, they definitely got a donation out of me. I think it was late, and I may have been close to New Year's Eve when I, feel extra nostalgic towards the end of the year. And then that commercial came on, and I believe I immediately donated. However, I have since realized that they are preying on our emotions to get donations and have not done so in a long time. Although I do donate to the Humane Society on occasion, but it's not because of their commercials. It's because I actually adopted animals from the Humane Society and feel like I want to support them. But yeah, Auntie Joan, what are your thoughts on those commercials?
well, it took more than one viewing of Sarah McLachlan's commercial. And, but when I did, I just signed up as a monthly donator. So they really got me.
Wowzers! Good on
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I feel it's okay if I switch off those commercials
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because they've already gotten me. I cannot stand to watch any of those. It just breaks my heart.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, one that wouldn't break your heart is something. It was a mock commercial by Studio C that I found on the YouTube, um, and it is a spoof on the Sarah McLachlan commercial, and it's with this woman sitting on a couch talking to you. She says, "I'm Sarah McLachlan." Clearly, she's not. And there is a disgusting, slobbering Saint Bernard, just drooling grossness all over her as she's trying to deliver the commercial. And then she finally gets the Saint Bernard off the couch and brings up this little ankle biter. I don't know what kind of dog it is. If people see it, you might be able to identify the breed. I could not. But it was this little ankle biter that was literally biting her as she was holding it, as she was trying to deliver her lines. And then it pans to a destructive medium-sized dog that is just like pulling stuffing out of toys in front of her and runs around the back of the couch, knocks over the Christmas tree and runs out. And it's very funny.
I
It's
need to see that one also.
Yes, I have the link for that. And then I found the Ditched Humane Society commercial where a guy in a pickup truck gets out of the car, throws a tennis ball for his dog. Dog goes to run to get the ball, and he takes off. And the dog is talking to the viewer, saying, there's nothing wrong with me. It's just the guy I was with, and you should adopt me, basically. And it ends with apparently the dude that threw the ball and left. His name is Randy. He dropped his wallet, and when he got out of the car, and the dog picks it up and shakes it and empties the contents of it. And he's like, "If you see Randy, let him know I have his wallet." And so
Oh,
that was a good one. And then there was now this is actually a good one. This was a best friends animal society adopt
oh yeah, they're a
change.
good one. Yeah.
Yeah. And they
Mm.
just have, an MC dog come out, and the dogs aren't even moving their mouths in any way. They're not even trying to say, like, that the
Mhm.
dogs are speaking. In the previous one, the Ditched Humane Society commercial with Randy and his wallet thing, the dog is actually, his mouth is moving, or they, CGI'd his mouth
Mhm.
moving.
Mhm.
But in this one, none of the animals' mouths actually move, but they all talk about how, adopting is good, and and all that. And I like that commercial. So those are like I I would rather see more of those types of commercials to
Yeah.
get people thinking about adoption and the
Yeah.
Humane Society and all the things that they do, and and that kind of stuff, versus showing the dogs in distress, which is just heart wrenching, to watch, and again preying on our emotions to make donations. So
But if it works, they'll do it.
and apparently, well, like I said, it definitely worked for me. The very first time I saw that ASPCA commercial, I immediately, I don't remember if I called and made a donation or I went online and made a donation. I don't honestly remember, but I know it was immediate.
Must have been that time of the month, huh?
Could have been that too. But they definitely got me. But I think they could equally get me with commercials like the ones I just talked about, that are a little bit more,
Yeah.
um, not necessarily an animal in distress, but animals talking to you. I guess I
Well,
like
they do
that.
that. They do that with children too, you know.
Yes.
The looking for, well, there's the cleft palate
Yeah.
ones, and
St. Jude's another one.
St. Jude is not nearly as bad as
So
the
here's what,
Shriners.
well, St. Jude, if you spend more time on YouTube, my precursor commercial that you can skip after 5 seconds is always a St. Jude commercial.
Really? Hmm.
Always. It is always a St. Jude commercial. And I did donate to St. Jude's got me years ago too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What I did not appreciate about St. Jude's was then the aftermath of marketing materials that appeared in my mailbox,
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
and that really, I have to say, aggravated me and made me not want to donate anymore.
Mm.
To be quite frank, because I'm like, if you're spending money on that, spend it. I mean, I'd rather you spend it on
Mm-hmm.
the kids. And I know some people are going to say, well, St. Jude doesn't necessarily spend the money on those marketing materials. Those are donated materials. Well, then don't donate marketing materials, donate the money to
Mm-hmm.
St. Jude's. Like either way, spend the money better. Don't send me calendars and,
Right.
you
Yes.
know, or the stickers for your return
Uh-huh.
address and
Uh-huh.
all
Uh-huh.
that stuff. And St. Jude's, I mean, it was constant for the first year after I donated. And I'm like, I don't want any of this. I'd rather see the kids get the money one way or another. I just it aggravated me
I
tremendously.
get those return address labels from a whole bunch of
Oh,
different groups.
exactly. St. Jude's is
Yeah.
not the only ones that do that. No, that was just one of the many marketing things that they had sent. And I'm just like, you no. Anything else on the Humane Society ASPCA that you wanted to share, Auntie Joan?
I don't think so. I think
No.
we've covered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then we'll wrap up today's episode. Thank you all for listening, and we're looking forward to having you listen next time. Until then, I'm Auntie.
And this is Auntie Joan.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye bye
Yeah.
now.
Bye bye. I say bye bye now.
We thank you for listening, and remember, when life eats away at your core, make pickled watermelon rinds